Welcome to FearBound Stories. Please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now let's begin. Westmore Cemetery was older than the town that grew around it. Some graves were so ancient their names had eroded into smooth stone. Angels with broken wings leaned over burial plots swallowed by ivy, and wrought iron fences curled like claws around family tombs no one visited anymore. At night, fog crawled through the gravestones like something alive. Thick, cold, always too quiet. Elliot Crane, the cemetery's night caretaker for nearly 15 years, liked to pretend the place didn't affect him. He walked it every night at the same hour, lantern in hand, boots sinking into frost-covered grass. People said he walked because of grief. Others said guilt. Only Elliot knew the truth. He walked the graveyard because he didn't know how to stop. Routine was the only thing keeping his mind from unraveling. On October 28th, something felt off before he even entered the gate. The iron frame groaned louder than usual as he pushed it open. A long, dragging moan that didn't echo. The fog was so thick he couldn't see more than a few feet, yet it felt like something deeper in the cemetery was waiting for him, watching him, listening. He lifted his lantern and stepped inside. That's when he saw the shoe print, wet fresh, pointing deeper into the cemetery. No visitors had been here tonight, no children, no grounds crew, and no animals could leave a human-shaped print with that level of detail. Elliot crouched, touched the water inside the footprint. Ice cold. It sent a chill up his arm. He started the walk anyway, but every step felt heavier, like the fog was thickening around his boots. 20 minutes in, he heard tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Somewhere near the massive Westmore oak, a tree so old its branches twisted like veins into the sky. "Who's out here?" he called into the fog. The tapping continued, louder, more insistent, rhythmic like someone knocking on wood. When he reached the oak, the lantern beam revealed something leaning against the trunk, a coffin. Upright, standing like a person. Elliot froze. Burials were done during the day. Coffins didn't just appear upright in the middle of the cemetery, and certainly not against a centuries-old tree. He approached slowly. The lid was slightly open, maybe half an inch, as if someone inside had pushed it from within. He felt his throat tighten. His lantern flickered. Then the lid creaked open wider. He hadn't touched it. Inside, darkness. Just an abyss. Like the coffin swallowed light instead of reflecting it. He leaned forward slightly. Something inside moved. Elliot stumbled back. "Who's in there?" No answer. Then the tapping began again, but now it was behind him. He spun around, nothing. The tapping shifted and to his left. Then right. Then behind the coffin. Then beneath the ground. Like someone or something circling him. Suddenly a whisper brushed the back of his neck. "You're late." He froze. Ice filled his veins. Slowly he turned. A man stood beside the coffin. Tall, thin, wearing a funeral suit that belonged to another century. Black wool frayed at the sleeves, shoes worn down to nothing. His face was hidden in shadow, but his hands were bone. Long, pale, unnaturally long fingers curved in at odd angles. Elliot backed away. "Stay back." The figure tilted its head, making a cracking noise like wood bending. "You didn't bury me." Elliot shook his head in panic. "I haven't buried anyone this week." The figure said nothing. It only lifted one long finger and pointed toward the coffin. Elliot turned, lantern trembling in his hand. The coffin plaque, he hadn't seen it before, now gleamed under the lantern's flame. Born 1971, died 2024. His mind broke for a moment. No, that's wrong. I'm alive. I'm standing here. The figure stepped closer. Its cold breath slid along his ear. You don't bury the dead. You join them. The lid of the coffin swung open fully. Inside lay Elliot, his own body. Skin gray, lips blue, eyes closed, hands folded neatly. Elliot screamed, stumbling backward, but the fog swallowed the sound. His lantern went out. He felt hands, dozens of them, grasping his arms, pulling him down, dragging him toward the coffin. The fog pressed in tighter, suffocating him. The last thing he heard was the sound of soil being shoveled. Heavy, slow, covering him. When morning came, the next caretaker found no sign of Elliot at all. Just his shattered lantern near the Westmore oak, and a fresh mound of dirt beside a coffin with a plaque that was suddenly blank. Only 5 fingerprints, among pale and human, were pressed into the soil. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hillside Rest Cemetery always felt different from the others in town. It wasn't maintained, never visited, and always seemed colder than the world around it. The iron gate hung crooked, the paths were overgrown, and half the graves leaned so far into the earth they looked like they were trying to lie back down. Leah Turner, a photographer obsessed with abandoned places, chose it for her next project. She arrived just after sunset, slipping through a broken section of fence with her camera, backpack, and flashlight. The moment she stepped inside, the air dropped 10 degrees. Her breath fogged instantly. She began taking photos, moving between tilted gravestones and tall grass. The camera clicked in the silence, but every time she checked a photo, something seemed wrong. A grave leaning sideways looked perfectly straight in the picture. A headstone cracked in half looked whole again. A missing angel statue appeared untouched. At first, she blamed the fog. She took a photo of a stone near the center of the cemetery. When she checked the camera screen, a tall figure stood behind the stone. Cloaked, still, watching. Leah snapped her head up. Nothing there. She lifted the camera again. The figure was closer. She lowered it. Nothing. She raised it a third time. The figure stood inches from her, filling the frame. Leah gasped and stumbled backward, nearly dropping the camera. She turned in circles, scanning the fog. Nothing but graves and darkness. Her pulse hammered as she reviewed the photo again. This time the figure was gone from the frame entirely. She kept walking, faster now, trying to find the exit. But the cemetery looked wrong. Graves in different places, statues she didn't recognize, a path that hadn't been there before. The deeper she went, the colder it got. Her flashlight flickered. That's when she saw the mausoleum. She was certain it hadn't been there before. Its stone walls were cracked and tangled with roots, and its rusted metal door hung slightly open. Fog curled around the doorway like breath. Leah lifted her camera and took a photo. In the picture, the mausoleum door was wide open. She looked up. Still barely ajar. A whisper drifted out, soft, low, calling her name. Her body shuddered. "No," she whispered, "I'm leaving." But when she turned, the path she came through was gone, replaced with thick fog and rows of unfamiliar graves. Her camera vibrated. She looked at the screen. A new photo had appeared, one she didn't take. It showed a funeral procession entering the mausoleum. She looked up again. The door swung open on its own, metal groaning. A scraping noise came from inside, slow, dragging, like nails on stone. Leah backed away, but the fog behind her thickened, pushing her forward. Hands suddenly gripped the doorframe from inside, pale hands, dirt under the nails. Then faces appeared, sunken eyes, gray skin, all staring at her in silence. One stepped out, then another, then more, like they'd been waiting for the door to open. Leah ran. She didn't stop to look back, didn't breathe, didn't think. She sprinted through gravestones and fog until she finally crashed through the broken fence and onto the dirt outside. The cemetery was dead silent behind her. She drove home shaking. When she reviewed her photos, the 20 pictures she took were there, along with over 200 more, pictures she had never taken. Most were of graves she didn't recognize. Some showed pale faces staring directly into the camera. Others showed her running through the fog with figures just behind her. And the last photo made her drop the camera. It was taken from behind her at her apartment door, a pale hand resting gently on her shoulder, and the timestamp was for the next night. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The old Ravenwood graveyard sat on top of a hill just outside town, hidden behind a row of dead trees that looked like twisted fingers reaching for the sky. No one went there, not even during the day. People said it wasn't haunted by ghosts, but by something older, something that didn't like being seen. Only one person ever dared to visit it regularly. Marcus Hale, a quiet, lonely man who worked late shifts and walked home through the woods each night. His route cut right past the graveyard. Most nights he ignored it. But one evening in December, something made him stop. It started with a sound, a faint voice, desperate, calling out from the darkness between the gravestones. "Help, please!" Marcus froze. The fog was thick, drifting between the graves like it had a mind of its own. The wind was still. Too still. Not even the branches moved. Again the voice came. Closer this time. "Please, someone help me." Marcus swallowed. "Who's out there?" He expected the voice to fade or disappear like a trick of the mind. Instead, it answered immediately. "I'm here, down here." Marcus stepped toward the sound, flashlight shaking in his hand. The beam sliced through the fog, revealing crooked stones and patches of frost, but no person. "Where are you?" he called out. "In the ground," the voice said. Marcus's stomach dropped. Was this someone buried alive? A prank? A recording? He knelt near an old grave where the voice sounded strongest. The name on the stone was nearly erased, covered in moss. He pressed his ear to the cold earth. "Please, I'm trapped." The voice was clear now. Too clear. Close. As if the speaker was inches beneath the soil. Marcus began digging with his hands, scraping away dirt, ignoring the sting of cold. He dug faster, desperate. The soil loosened easily, too easily, as if something beneath was pushing upward. Then his fingers hit wood, a coffin. Marcus's breath caught. "I'm getting you out," he whispered. His flashlight flickered, dimming. The woods around him grew quieter, like the entire world was holding its breath. He wiped dirt from the coffin lid, but noticed something strange. The wood wasn't rotted. It looked new. He pried at the edges. The coffin cracked slightly, just enough for a thin line of dark air to escape. Inside the coffin, something moved. Marcus jerked back. Then the voice came again, right behind his ear this time. "Open it?" Marcus spun around, but no one was there. He slowly looked back at the coffin. The lid was moving. Not from his digging, but from inside. It slid open an inch, then two, then wider. Marcus raised the flashlight and pointed it into the coffin. It was empty. Completely empty. No body, no dirt, just a hollow, dark space. "Where are you?" Marcus whispered. Behind him, a woman's voice answered, "I'm right here." He turned slowly, Standing between the gravestones was a woman dressed in burial clothes, old, tattered, soaked in dirt. Her hands were shaking, her skin pale and cracked like dried clay. The burial veil hung loosely around her face, hiding everything except her eyes. Her eyes were wrong. Too wide, too bright, too desperate. Marcus stumbled backward. I thought you were underground. I was, she whispered, stepping toward him. Until you dug me out. He shook his head. I just heard your voice. I thought you needed help. Her head tilted sharply, unnaturally. You heard me because you listened. No one else listens. She stepped closer. Marcus backed up until he hit another headstone. The woman's cracked lips curled into a trembling smile. You freed me from the earth, she said softly. But that means someone has to take my place. Marcus's heart slammed in his chest. I'm leaving. I'm not doing this. I'm not. The woman's voice sharpened. You dug the grave open. You called me out. You broke the seal. Marcus ran. He sprinted between gravestones, slipping on wet grass, crashing through branches. The fog closed in around him. Every step felt heavier, like the air was thickening, pushing him back toward the graveyard. Behind him he heard her voice, but not screaming. Laughing like a broken music box spinning too fast. Marcus. He didn't look back. He reached the hill's edge when the ground beneath him gave way. He fell into a pit, deep, cold, freshly dug. He clawed at the sides, but the dirt collapsed in his fingers. The pit kept pulling him down as if something under the earth was breathing him in. He looked up to see her standing at the edge of the grave, looking down at him. You freed me, she whispered. Thank you. Dirt began pouring into the pit on its own. Marcus screamed, trying to climb out, but invisible hands dragged him down. The last thing he saw was the woman's face, and the last thing he heard was her whisper. Someone has to stay below. When his screams finally stopped, the ground smoothed itself, the soil flattening like water calming after a stone is thrown in. By morning, the grave looked untouched, just another old plot in Ravenwood Graveyard. But next to it, fresh footprints circled the area in slow, deliberate loops. Too small to be Marcus's, barefoot, deep in the dirt, leading away into the fog. And the headstone beside the grave had changed. It now read, Born 1985, died tonight. No one ever found him. But on quiet nights, people walking near the woods swear they hear a voice calling from under the ground, asking to be freed. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The Blackthorn Parish graveyard sat behind a church that hadn't held a service in almost 40 years. Its wooden pews had collapsed, its stained glass windows were shattered, and the bell tower leaned at such an angle that locals swore a single gust of wind could topple it. No one lived near it, and even travelers avoided the road leading past it. Too many strange things had happened there. Too many disappearances, whispers in the fog, lights in the trees, footsteps that had no owner. But the worst stories were about the Caretaker's shack, a collapsed stone shed beside the graveyard known as the place where the ones who got stuck tried to call out. No one ever went near it, until Evan Brooks did. Evan wasn't superstitious. He was a freelance videographer who made mini documentaries about abandoned places. Urban explorers loved his content, and his channel, Forgotten Midwest, had grown to nearly 400,000 subscribers. His most viewed videos were filmed in decaying hospitals, burnt-out factories, and ghost towns swallowed by weeds. But he'd never filmed a graveyard before. He arrived in Blackthorn just after midnight, camera in hand, cold air nipping at his skin. The moment he stepped through the broken church gate, he felt a strange pressure in his ears, like the sound around him had been sucked away. Silence. Thick, unnatural silence. He took a few steps and lifted his camera. As he filmed the leaning gravestones, the trees, the fog creeping between them, his camera display glitched. Static flickered across the screen, followed by long black streaks, like something was brushing against the lens. He cleaned it, but the glitch persisted. At first it annoyed him, then it unnerved him. He turned his flashlight toward the stones. Something about them felt wrong. Some leaned, some sank, some were cracked, but a few, too many, had names scratched out completely, not worn away by time. Scratched. Deliberately, Evan swallowed and continued deeper. The smell in the air changed. Damp soil, cold stone, and something else, something metallic. His flashlight beam caught the edge of the caretaker's shack. Its roof caved in, one wall exposed to the open air. Moss consumed the stones, and the door lay twisted on the ground like something had broken out rather than in. Evan moved closer, documenting everything. Then he noticed the ground. Footprints. Bare footprints. Deep in the dirt, leading to the shack, and then stopping. No footprints leading away. Evan crouched beside them. Maybe a homeless person, he whispered into the camera. But the prints were too small, too narrow, too childlike. He stood suddenly, heart racing. Inside the shack, something scraped, slowly, deliberately, like nails dragging across stone. Evan froze. He raised his camera toward the sound. "Is someone in there?" he called out. Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. As if answering, Evan felt his skin crawl. He forced himself to step toward the shack, crunching through leaves and broken roof tiles. The darkness inside swallowed his flashlight beam, making the interior feel deeper than it should have been. He took another step and heard breathing, faint, slow, behind him. He turned instantly, flashlight whipping through the fog. No one. His breath faltered. He looked down at his camera screen. A face stared back at him, gaunt, pale, eyes hollow, dirty hair hanging like wet strings. A child's face. A girl, maybe 10 or 11, standing inches behind him. Evan spun. Nothing there. When he turned his camera around, the face on the screen was gone. "Okay," he whispered shakily. "I'm not alone out here." He backed away from the shack, and a sudden cold burst of air rushed past him, like someone running through him. His flashlight flickered violently. Something whispered into his left ear, "Don't go." Evan jumped back, stumbling over a broken gravestone, landing hard on the ground. His flashlight rolled away, beam spinning chaotically through the fog. He scrambled to grab it, and for 1 second the beam illuminated a shape standing behind the caretaker's shack. It was small, thin, still, a child. Evan's breath hitched. When he raised the flashlight again, the figure was gone. He wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at him to run back to his car and never come here again. But his camera was still recording, and his shaky voice narrated everything automatically, a habit he couldn't break. He aimed it at the shack again. A soft humming drifted from inside now. A lullaby. Slow. Wrong. He inched closer, drawn in despite the dread tightening in his chest. As he moved deeper into the shack's shadow, he noticed claw marks on the walls, deep grooves, desperate scratches. Some looked like fingernails, some looked bigger. And then he found the journal, a small leather-bound book half buried in dirt near the shack entrance. The pages were stiff, waterlogged, but the writing was still visible. "The girl won't sleep. She stands in the corner all night. She whispers even when her mouth is closed. I can't dig fast enough. She keeps finding her way back." Evan felt sick. He flipped another page. "She asked me why I buried her. I told her it was to keep the others safe. But the ground refused to hold her. The next entry was just one sentence, scribbled violently, ink smeared. If she can't go down, someone else must. Evan lowered the journal slowly. A soft giggle came from behind him. He turned. The girl stood there, hair matted with dirt, dress torn, eyes hollow. Her head slowly tilted until it hung sideways at an impossible angle. Evan stumbled back, flashlight shaking so violently the beam jittered across gravestones and trees. She stepped toward him. He stepped back. She stepped faster. He turned and ran. Branches slapped his face. Gravestones blurred past. His flashlight beam shot wildly through the fog. He didn't know where the entrance was anymore. The cemetery paths twisted, circled, rearranged themselves like the place was alive. His breathing grew unstable, panic tearing through his lungs. Behind him, the girl's footsteps were not running, not walking. Something in between, fast, skittering, unnatural. Evan didn't dare look back. When he finally saw the broken church gate, he sprinted toward it with everything he had left. But the ground beneath him cracked. He fell into blackness. The world spun. Dirt rained down. He hit something hard. Wood. A coffin. A coffin that slammed shut above him. Pitch darkness swallowed him. He screamed and pounded against the lid, but the wood didn't budge. Soil poured in through cracks, filling the space around him. He felt it reach his ankles, his knees. He screamed again for help. Above the coffin, something whispered, "You came to film the dead." The soil climbed higher. "Now be still with them." The dirt reached his chest. Someone has to stay in the ground. The soil reached his mouth. And then, silence. When morning came, nothing marked where Evan had fallen. Just fresh earth smoothed over. A camera half buried in the leaves. And a single small footprint beside it. Bah, child-sized, pointing back toward the shack. Before we move on to the next story, give us your verdict on this one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. The Graceland Hollow graveyard was known for one thing. She watched her with a sad, distant expression. No one in town could explain it. Every few months, a new gravestone would appear at the far edge of the cemetery. Perfectly carved, perfectly placed, always aligned with the others. But no new burials were ever recorded. No funeral processions, no fresh dirt, no ceremonies. The grave simply appeared. And each stone always had a name, a full name, a birth date, and a death date that was never in the past, but always in the immediate future. Some stones even showed tomorrow's date, some the next hour. Only one person ever tried to investigate them. Daphne Miller, a night security guard hired to patrol the grounds after the townspeople demanded answers. Her job was simple. Walk the grounds every hour, and report anything unusual. She expected trespassers, maybe vandals, but she never expected the dead to keep track of time. On her first night, she found a newly appeared gravestone at 2:13 a.m. It had not been there during her midnight round. The name on it read, "Born 1989, died 2:19 a.m. Daphne felt her pulse spike. That was 6 minutes from now. Her radio crackled suddenly, static, then a faint voice. "Help!" She froze. "Who is this?" More static. "Coming for me." The voice was female, crying. Daphne looked at the gravestone again. Julia Marsh. Coincidence? Impossible. She grabbed her flashlight and bolted through the rows of gravestones, scanning for anyone in distress. The fog thickened around her ankles and rose quickly to her knees, then her waist, as if swallowing her path. Every few seconds she checked her watch. "Julia," she shouted, "where are you?" The fog parted slightly, revealing a woman standing near the old mausoleum. She looked lost, drenched, terrified. Her clothes were soaked, as if she had been pulled from a river. Her hair clung to her face. Her skin was trembling. Daphne ran toward her. "Are you Julia Marsh?" The woman nodded weakly. She hugged herself, shivering violently. "I don't know how I got here," she whispered. "I was driving home from work. Something crossed the road. I swerved, and then I woke up here. I can't feel my legs. I can't feel anything." Daphne grabbed her shoulders. "You're okay, you're safe with me." Julia's eyes drifted downward. "Am I?" she said softly. She lifted her hand slowly, and Daphne's breath caught. Julia's fingers were blue, not cold blue, dead blue. Daphne stepped back instinctively. Julia looked down at her own skin, horrified. "I'm not supposed to be alive," she whispered. Daphne checked her watch again and felt her throat close. "We need to move," she said. "Come on, I'll carry you if I—" Julia grabbed her wrist suddenly, grip icy and desperate. "No," she said, "listen to me." Her voice changed, shifted, softened. "That isn't my grave." Daphne blinked. "What?" Julia pointed deeper into the fog. "That's my grave." Daphne followed her finger, and her stomach dropped. There was another gravestone behind a tree, newly carved, dirt still settling around it, fog curling around the base. Born 1992, died 2:19 a.m. Her heart stopped. That can't... I'm alive." Julia's face twisted with sorrow. "It's not about being alive," she whispered. "It's about being claimed." The mausoleum behind Julia creaked. Stone grinding, something inside shifting, waking. The fog thickened into shapes. Tall, thin silhouettes standing between the gravestones. One by one, they emerged from the haze. Figures draped in burial cloths, faces pale and sunken, eyes hollow and hungry. They weren't walking, they were drifting. "They come for whoever's name appears," Julia said. "They came for me, they come for everyone. You can run, but they always know the time." A sharp bell tolled across the graveyard, not from the church, but from the earth itself. The figures moved as one, toward Daphne. She backed away, flashlight shaking violently. "Julia, help me, please, help me!" Julia didn't move. She watched her with a sad, distant expression, then said, "I'm sorry, we don't leave our graves. We only warn the ones who still can." Daphne ran. She sprinted between gravestones, tripping, stumbling, gasping for air. The flashlight beam flickered wildly. The fog seemed to reach for her ankles, slowing her steps. She screamed into her radio, but all she heard was her own ragged breathing. The mausoleum door slammed open. A deafening roar of cold wind burst out. The figures behind her, the ones in burial cloths, picked up speed. They didn't chase. They glided. And every step Daphne took felt heavier, as if gravity deepened beneath her feet. She reached the iron gate, but it was closed, locked. The padlock snapped shut, even though she'd left it open. She turned. The figures surrounded her in a half circle. Faces empty, hands stretched toward her. "No, please, please." The fog rose over her, wrapped around her, pulled. The graveyard silenced. When morning came, the sheriff found the gate open. Daphne's flashlight lying near the entrance and her radio still transmitting static. He found one new gravestone at the far edge of the cemetery. Born 1992, died 2:19 a.m. And beside it, the earth was perfectly smooth, untouched. But the most chilling part wasn't the stone. It was the footprints, small, deep, barefoot footprints circling Daphne's grave. Over and over. as if someone had waited there all night. Someone who wasn't supposed to leave her grave. You've just crossed the boundary between reality and the unknown. If you felt the fear tonight, make sure to subscribe before you leave, because on this channel every story is just the beginning. New nightmares arrive every few nights, each one darker than the last. Until then, keep your lights low, your doors locked, and your mind open. You are now part of the FearBound family.